Yo, what is up, guys? It's been quite a while, hasn't it? So today I want to welcome all of you lovely people to my Pokemon Unite Bluestacks control and setup guide for PC, of course. So guys, the first step we want to do is, of course, we're going to come over here to the Bluestacks official website, bluestacks.com, and we're going to click on View All Versions right here. Once you do that, scroll down just a little bit to where it says BlueStacks 4, and we're going to be downloading the NuGet 64 bits, assuming you have a 64-bit operating system, which I believe most of us do have. Alternatively, you can also download BlueStacks 5, but I think most people still use 4, and this just seems to be a little bit more consistent with its functionalities. So go ahead and download that. You'll see a little bit of a prompt up here, and boom, now we have BlueStacks. So, once we get into BlueStacks, you'll see right here we have My Games and Game Center. Immediately what we're going to do is we're going to click on Google Play. Now guys, the first time you do this, you're going to be prompted to sign in using your Google accounts. So your Gmail account, whatever it is, basically whatever it is for your phone, you'd have to sign in for it so that way you can download stuff off of Google Play as if you're using a phone. So go ahead and do that, and once you finish that step, you're going to go up here to search for apps and games. Click on Pokemon Unite, of course, and it will pop up at the very top, and you're going to click on download. Should be about a 500 megabyte download, give or take, so really not terribly long. After that, you can safely close Google Play Store, and we're going to go back to our home, back to My Games, and now you should see Pokemon Unite popped up here on your list of games. So, of course, we're going to launch Pokemon Unite right now. And now, as soon as we get in-game, guys, we're going to launch practice mode. Unfortunately, a lot of the setup that we're going to be doing for this game has to be done in practice mode just because that's how it is, and a lot of your buttons don't pop up, so you won't really be able to see where you have to put the keybinds for. Another small thing to note, guys, is if this is your first time launching Pokemon Unite via BlueStacks, the game will prompt you to either sign into an existing account if you're a Nintendo Switch user, or if you're a phone user, of course. And to do so, you will have to essentially link your accounts by signing into your Nintendo account or Facebook or whatever it is you use, basically, if you're a Nintendo Switch user. So once you do that, it'll just basically ask you to set your language. It'll ask you to accept the privacy notice, of course, all that legal jazz. We don't worry about that. Just make sure you accept everything, and once you're in the game, you can start it. Of course, if you don't want to use your existing account, or if you're a brand new player that just wants to play this game on PC, you will have to create a new account. Now, once all that is done, we're going to come over here to the main menu. As you can see, you're going to click on the top left profile icon right here, and then we're going to click on Practice, and then Practice Area. Now, guys, today I'm basically going to be showing you two primary control setups, and the two Pokemon that we're going to be using as an example are going to be Cinderace and Mr. Mime. The reasoning for this is because I personally feel like Mr. Mime and Cinderace are both on completely opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to the control setup that you want. For example, Mr. Mime is an extremely skill shot reliant character, aside from his Unite move, whereas Cinderace practically has no skill shots aside from edge cases with his Unite move. So already, you can kind of see where this is going. Essentially, skill shot reliant people will gear towards one setup, and non-skill shot reliant Pokemon, or Pokemon that rely primarily on auto attacks, like Cinderace, Greninja, and Ninetales, will swing towards the other setup, because it's just easier. So, we're going to go here to the little drop box, and we're going to click on Cinderace. Again, guys, if you don't have Cinderace or any of these Pokemon that I'm going to be explaining with, it's no big deal. You can use anybody that you want. I'm just going to show you so that way you can see how these two types of characters really function with the different setups. So, click Cinderace, click on Start. It'll ask you to choose your CPU partner as well. Doesn't really matter who you choose for the sake of this experiment. And now, guys, once we load into the practice mode, there's a few things we're going to have to do to set up right off the bat. So, as you can see, we're going to load into the game. And immediately, we're going to go to the top left in-game and click on this little yellow wrench icon. Now, once we do that under Ally Pokemon, we're going to turn off move cooldowns. This gives you infinite cooldowns, or I should say no cooldowns. Uh, This makes you invincible, so we're going to turn that on, and we're going to give ourselves level 9, since we're playing Cinderace, and you get your Unite at level 9. Go ahead and click on these abilities just to level them up. It doesn't really matter what abilities you level up for the purpose of this video, and we're going to level up the Unite move, turn off the opposing Pokemon attacks to prolong the game, and then after that, we can just go ahead and close this for good. Now, once we do that, guys, we're going to go to the Bluestacks drop box on the right over here. If this doesn't appear for you for some reason, click on these little arrows to open sidebar, and it's going to be the fourth option called Game Controls. Once Game Controls pops up, you can kind of tinker a little bit here if you'd like. This on-screen controls button just basically shows your keybinds on screen, and the opacity determines how visible it is, of course. So if you want them to be very faint, you'd have a lower opacity. If you want to be very bold and visible, you'd increase this meter. Now, once we do that, we're going to click on Advanced Editor, and this is where the bulk of what we're going to be doing will take place. So initially, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top right, where it says Control Scheme, and again, you'll see that they have two presets right here, MOBA and WASD. We don't really care about that. What we're going to do, basically, is we're going to hit Create New Scheme, and it'll open up a custom scheme. We're going to click on that, and we're going to hit Edit, and we're going to name this one, to start, Moba-Style. And of course, you can see I have a few other Moba-Styles here because I was tinkering around with various settings. And once you name that Moba-Style, we'll hit Save, and then you can safely declick off of that drop box. And now, guys, the first thing we want to do is we are going to set up buttons for each of your non-abilities. Now, what I mean by that is, so your base button, your potion button, blah, 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 we're going to use tap spot for each of these buttons right here. So we're going to go ahead, left click on tap spot, and drag it over each of these icons that are not your abilities. So we're going to do one for base, we're going to do one for your item slot, one for your scoring slot, one for auto attack, one for map expand, and alternatively, if you'd like, you can set them for the little quick chat command emote thingies, you know, the keep the pressure on funny noise, and the retreat, and all that stuff. Now, once you guys do that, we're also going to go ahead here, and we're going to be using the MOBA D-pad. So again, left click, drag this over to the left where the normal movement circle is in-game. Again, it doesn't really matter what size you make this. I've tried making it bigger, I've tried making it smaller. It doesn't really matter in this situation. We're just going to go ahead and drag that over to the left. That's where you will see the actual movement and indicator. And we're going to go down here to settings and click that little cogwheel on the bottom left. And the first and most important thing that y'all need to know is you're going to see this little hero dummy button. So go ahead and left click the hero dummy button. It'll give you like a little chess piece looking thing. And we're going to left click drag this directly on top of the Pokemon that you're using. Pretty much like right on their head, like a little hat or something. And once we do that, we can just declick that. And essentially, guys, what this does is it allows Bluestacks to essentially always know where your center point is going to be. So when you're right-clicking around, you won't have this like weird problem where you're kind of offset to the left or kind of offset to the right. It will pretty much directly simulate a center point no matter what game you're playing. And this is super important because without this little hero dummy thing centered, your right clicks will become completely wacky and they will not work properly. So make sure that you do this. After you do that, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this little menu over here. And we are going to click on MOBA skill pad. And this is what we're going to be using for our actual abilities. So go ahead, drag this over ability 1. In this case, it's going to be Blaze Kick. I like to expand it so that way it lines up with the actual ability. Again, it doesn't really matter too much. You're going to do that also for your second ability. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect when you line this up. It's not really a big deal. And we're going to do the same thing for our ultimate and final ability. Now, once you do this, guys, we are going to set a keybind for each of these buttons right here. So for me personally, we're going to click on this little white circle right here. And since I'm a League of Legends player, I'm going to use B to go back to base. For the scoring button, it doesn't really matter. Totally preference, like most of these. I'm going to use C. For your item slot, which would be flash, of course, or whatever other item, you're going to be using T, or any button really, doesn't matter. And for my actual abilities, I personally prefer using F as my main ability, E for my second ability, and again, I like using R because that is the standard ultimate button that I'm used to. So we'll go ahead and click on R right there. And for our auto attack, we're going to be using space. For our map expand button, so you can ping things on the mini map, I personally like to use caps lock. Again, this is personal preference. I just like where the button is located, and it's really, really easy to hit with your ring finger or whatever. So there you go, caps lock. And again, guys, real quick, if you accidentally left click anywhere on the screen and a little box pops up, don't forget you can just click on this little X right here on the top right, and you'll be good to go. So, now guys, once we do this, there's a few more settings that you want to change for these abilities specifically, and depending on the character that you will be playing in-game. So, this is kind of important to note. If you're using a character that has an ability that is either just an automatic cast ability, so for example, Cinderace's Feint, you just press the button, it does what it's meant to do, there's no targeting involved, or for Blaze Kick for this example, again, you press the button, there's no real targeting involved, it just goes right to the Pokemon, of the lowest health. We're going to click on settings, and you guys want to make sure that this is set to auto cast for these type of abilities. So we're going to go ahead and click on auto cast. You can de-click over here to get rid of that box, so don't worry, it automatically saves those settings. Do the same thing for your feints. Click on auto cast. Again, you can de-click it safely. And for your ultimate ability on Cinderace specifically, we're going to be using manual cast. And we're also going to go into more settings. And down here in this little feature that says cancel skill, where it says enable features, make sure this is checked off so it actually works. And this allows you to cancel your ability. Now guys, for those of you that aren't really familiar with MOBAs or anything like that, when you use an ability, sometimes you actually don't want to use that ability. You might just want to bring it up to see the targeting indicator, or maybe you just change your mind and you don't want to use it right now. So this allows you to essentially just use the ability, but cancel it before you actually use it. And it has a default to space. I personally like using middle mouse click. Again, it doesn't matter what button you use, just use whatever feels comfortable for you guys. After you do that, of course, you can just de-click it. All those internal settings save. And then once we do that, you will want to actually hit the save button down here so it saves all of our progress that we just made. So go ahead, hit save. You can exit this. And then now you can see we can right click around just fine. And we can also hold right click. Now personally, I recommend just holding down right click. It just feels way more responsive, and like you can see how much faster it is compared to me clicking around. Like, it's not too big of a difference, but guys, in this game, since this is not really meant to be, a PC title, I really feel that holding down right click is going to be just the better way to go about moving around. And of course, you can also hold down spacebar to attack while you're moving. You don't actually have to just keep tapping it. It's pretty busted. So of course right here, all I'm doing is I'm holding down right click and I'm holding down spacebar at the same time. Really, really easy. There's nothing you have to stress out for. Super simple. And of course, as you're doing this, moving around auto attacking, you can press your abilities. You can see I can auto attack, press Blaze Kick. If you want to run around, move around. Oopsie, I got to get away, use my feint. The Unite move, when you use manual cast will open up the indicator, or I'm sorry, it'll open up your field of view, but you will not see a targeting indicator. Now, I don't know why this is. I've tested it with quick cast, I've tested it with auto cast. The other iterations of settings that you can use for this button are kind of broken. They feel really weird with this ability specifically, so I would just use manual cast. Another cool little weird bug or trick, I guess, is that if you're auto attacking and you open up your Unite move, you can essentially have increased field of view while you're auto attacking, just like so. I don't really know why this is. It's kind of a bug, but it doesn't really mean anything. And of course, if you want to use your Unite move, you can just press the R again to toss your Unite move. Alright guys, since the practice mode is going to end, this is going to be the first control setup that I'll show you guys for most of the characters that I would like to play in this game. I personally feel like this is going to be the best control setup. You guys might feel a little bit differently. But that's okay because now we're going to go ahead and we're going to show you the second control setup, which I would like to call the MMO style. So once this game ends right here, we're going to go back to the main menu real quick. Again, guys, I do apologize that practice mode is limited to 10 minutes. It makes it a little bit inconvenient having to go back here and change everything. But we're going to go back into practice mode and practice area. And this time we're going to choose Mr. Mime. Again, if you don't have Mr. Mime, oh, that's not Mr. Mime. If you don't have Mr. Mime, it doesn't matter. You can also mess around with any skill shot character. So if you have Gardevoir, Gardevoir will suffice. If you have Venusaur, basically anybody where you want to really aim your abilities and you don't just have to, click on something and auto attack, just go ahead and choose them, and we're going to go and we're going to start right back up into the game. So, of course, a little bit of a loading time. And again, guys, once we get into the actual game, we're going to tinker with the little settings on the top left in-game to give ourselves, no cooldowns, invincibility, blah, blah, blah. So here we go. I'm going to get into the game real quick and click on the wrench again. Disable cooldowns, add invincibility, disable the opponent's attacks, give yourself a bunch of levels so you can get your Unite move. Level up your abilities again, just like so. Get your Unite move, and we're good to go back into the advanced game controls. So now, guys, we're going to go back here. We're going to click on Open Advanced Editor. And now you see we have our Moba-Style 3 control scheme from earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to go here, and we're going to hit Copy. Now, once you hit Copy, it's going to basically copy the exact same page, and you'll have the little 1 button to indicate that's a duplicate. And we're going to go back to the Dropbox, and we're going to edit this to say MMO-Style, or whatever you prefer. I just call it MMO-Style because of the movement setup we're going to be using. Hit save, and once we do that, guys, the only real difference that we're going to be doing here, aside from some other very Pokemon-specific tuning, is we will be deleting the MOBA D-pad because we're not right-clicking anymore, and we're going to be dragging the default D-pad over here onto where your movement would be. Again, this one, you don't really have to care about the sizing. Doesn't really matter. I've tried making it big. I've tried making it small. Doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference. So do whatever you feel like. Don't matter. Again, if you want to tinker with the settings, you can do that in here. The settings for WASD specifically don't really seem to matter that much. You can honestly just drag it onto the field right here and just start clicking it around, and it won't matter. So once you do that, guys, make sure that you do hit save, of course, right here, or else this will just not take effect. And we're going to close the control editor again. And now you can see we're moving around with ASD. If I hold D, it goes to the right. I hold A, it goes to the left. You can move around a lot. Again, guys, apologize for this lag. And you can see it's pretty responsive, honestly. It's very responsive. It's easy to use. It's really not that bad at all. The only issue with this I have, and for some reason it's not letting me use my A button, so sorry guys, I'm going to have to go see what's wrong with that real quick. Let's redo that. Okay. That's a little weird. Yeah, hopefully that works this time. Okay, for some reason, guys, my A button isn't working, but we're going to keep explaining anyway. So, for me, guys, the main difference between WASD and the MOBA style of right-clicking, I personally prefer the MOBA style of clicking because, and I'll show you right here, we go back into Advanced Editor, we can go into our MOBA style with our left click, hit save, and it just feels a little bit more smooth because for me personally, what this allows you to do is this allows you to click around and just use your abilities like so. You can use all of your stuff willy-nilly. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to worry about the awkward situation where you're using WASD and you have to like move your hand over to hit F or E or whatever. So the WASD setup is going to be very dependent on what keybinds you set for these abilities right here. Because if they're kind of weird keybinds, like for me personally, F, E, and R are a little bit weird to use with WASD because of course this is not an actual MMO, it's a MOBA, and in MMOs you can use a lot of AD strafing, you can use a lot of mouse strafing, so it's a little bit easier in that game. So guys, if you use WASD, you might want different keybinds for this, or it's going to be really awkward, but if you're using the the MOBA style setup, it doesn't really matter, because you can just move around at the same time, press your buttons, and it's A-okay. Now, one thing I need to show you guys that's really important, and this is specifically for the Moba-Style, and also specifically for skill shot based characters, guys. You want to go back here to where you have your settings on these abilities, and you want to make sure that these are set to quick cast and not auto cast. So we're going to go ahead, set that to quick cast, and set that to quick cast. And for the ultimate, you can also set this to quick cast or auto cast. Doesn't really matter. I feel like most of the time you're using the ultimate, you're just going to press the button to pop it out. You know, very seldom are you going to be aiming ultimate abilities like this that don't really have a lot of aiming involved. So we can just go ahead and set that to quick cast as well, just for the purpose of the video. Now, what this does is when you're moving around using right click, this allows you to aim the ability also while holding down right click. So literally all I'm doing right now is I'm holding right click and I'm also holding E, and as you can see I can move around while I'm holding right click and I can aim the ability. And then as soon as I let go of the ability, it pops down and boom, you can set up a combo just like that. Alternatively, you can also just hold down E and move around with it if you're standing still. It doesn't really matter what you do. Now, there's a really strange bug in this game, guys. I'm not sure if it's a bug or what, but if you are not holding down right or left click when you're trying to aim the ability, you cannot actually extend it all the way to the edge of the hitbox. As you can see, I can drag it all the way to the right, but it's really awkward to drag it all the way up to the top or bottom of the screen. And maybe this is just, you know, a non-full screen issue. I'm not exactly too sure what causes that, so you guys might want to tinker around with that. But for all intents and purposes, you can use all of your abilities while you're right-clicking around. It doesn't matter. I'll show you real fast just in case. So we go into the jungle here. I'm going to pop down a barrier. I'm going to pop down a confusion. Again, sorry guys, it is a little bit laggy because I'm recording, but trust me, this is pretty smooth in-game, and you guys just need to tinker around with it. Of course, you can also just right-click around and hold spacebar. Everything is good to go. So, guys, this just about pretty much wraps up the control scheme. Pretty much you guys have everything you need to just get up and go. Again, the Moba-Style and the MMO-Style setups are a complete preference. You can choose whichever one you like. The right-click style is going to be less keybind intensive, whereas the WASD style is going to be more keybind intensive. So again, mess around with it, choose whichever ones you like. And guys, don't forget that for skill shot reliant characters, you will want to have this on quick cast and not auto cast. Auto cast makes it kind of buggy. I don't know why you're not allowed to aim your abilities. So just go and check that and mess around with it and see what works for you, and you won't have a problem with it. So guys, this pretty much wraps it up. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Again, I do apologize if this is a little bit long-winded and it is a little inconvenient with having to jump into practice mode to set everything up. But this is essentially everything you will need to have the two, what I feel are main controller setups if you are a MOBA or an MMO player. And again, you can also do this with controller, but that's a different story. So guys, I hope this helps you out. If you guys want to see more Pokemon Unite content, any more guides, whatever it is, please let me know in the comments what I can do to improve. Let me know what you guys want to see in the future, and I sincerely hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, guys.